everyone. I hope you're having a great time at unBoxed so far. I've been learning a ton. Yesterday I attended the product sessions, and that was super interesting to hear all the great things that Amazon is rolling out. This afternoon, I'm really excited to be talking to you about some of our favorite topics, which is scaling your business and how to use AMC and DSP to unlock growth. All right, so I'm Melissa Burdick, co-founder and president of PackView. And we rock, paper, scissors before I said that I would introduce Ree. This is Ree Edu, and he's our senior director of product and super smart guy. So there you go. We already have fans in the audience. So today's agenda, we're going to talk to you about e-commerce business goals, unique opportunities with DSP and AMC, how they work together with sponsored products and other ad types. We're going to go through a couple case studies and, of course, some key takeaways that you can learn from. But first, why are we here? We work with a ton of brands and agencies at PackView, and we consistently hear from them that they want three things, and these are the three consistent things that they're talking about. And with AMC and DSP, we can really track and deliver against these things. So one is incremental revenue, incrementality. Two is profitable sales growth, and I don't know if you guys listened to the chief economist of advertising yesterday, but it was really interesting. What he said was macroeconomics that we are all facing, that we are in a recession driven by inflation, and that margins will drive ad spend, not demand. So there you go, profitable sales growth. And then accelerating category and market segment share. So those are the three things we're really hearing from our brands.
Cool. So let's see how many different ways we can break this talk track. But AMC really is sort of like an unprecedented data set that is the first of its kind in the market. Brands and retail teams have been using it for probably 2 or 3 years at this point to really dive deep, not just into what performance marketing means to them and how things are actually working, but really get deep in terms of how their investments worked out year over year, if they feel comfortable with a lot of those strategies, and then moreover, sort of create principles for optimization that could have never been done before. It's been core in looking at actual net sales lift. Brands have been able to use it to actually develop incrementality modeling, and not a lot of the silly incrementality modeling that we see that's really just a share of voice, actual incrementality.
He asked, can we have music when we walk on?
Was that the request?
I think so.
Is that what happens when you don't read that? Sorry. All right, well, let's brands and analytic team, whatever. Yeah, it's fine. Where was I? I don't know. But where were we? Oh, yeah, all right. Nonetheless, it's been fantastic in sort of getting to the root of how some of these things work with each other. Today, it's more accessible than ever. It also has expanded. Not only does it include sponsored display, but they've introduced a myriad of new data points designed to show you not just why your media is better together, but functionally how it supports your overall business objectives and bottom line at the end of it. I think even more important to note that it's not something, just for your media teams. We've got sales and customer development and retail teams that are actively using this information to reforecast weekly run rates. A lot of times we see them taking the information down to a DMA level by brand and then matching that against their other customer data to get an idea of what leakage looks like between retailers, which is core if you're looking at your incrementality modeling. And then you've got others that are digging into the data to see what the potential price improvements are within each one of them. As we keep going forward, and brands sort of prepare for a cookieless future, it's data sets like this that we really expect to close the gap. Not only does it have the proper metrics that allow us to do better econometric modeling, but it's really going to unleash a myriad of behavioral and shopper data that we can only dream of. That's the second part of my notes, isn't it? So I think one of the things that's sort of the elephant in the room every single time we talk about AMC is always going to be, it's hard. Yeah, look, it's all SQL-based. It's a little bit difficult. Don't have to cry about it. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like when you're learning a new programming language and it's going to take you 3 or 4 weeks to do something remotely cool. I guarantee you, day one, SQL 101, you're going to be able to write a query that you can use to pull data that you actually care about and make your brand and your life better. I think outside of the sheer volume of data that you see there, one of the nice things I personally like about AMC is that it has actually actionable insights. And I think we sometimes take that for granted. There's nothing worse than getting access to a clean room with a bevy of data that you can't do a damn thing about and you know it. With AMC, you could actually action on a lot of that stuff, and I think brands have been able to use it to not just look at their ROAS numbers, but really sort of dig deep in terms of what unique reach looks like. what that overlap of audience looks like between brands within their single portfolio. And I think it's really, really been helpful in allowing them to scale. You can keep going deeper on that too. Within AMC, we can now start to see co-occurring levels between different mediums, which are fantastic in terms of like how we create impact scoring. Oops. Both in terms of how we create impact scoring, as well as how we sort of determine where our next dollar goes. And we'll go through 3 pretty quick ones because I know we don't have a ton of time left. But new to brand is always a really easy one because brands are generally most interested in it. The economy is generally right for it right now. E-com penetration has largely normalized. Elasticity is still at all-time lows. We don't really see the kind of trade-down activity that we'd expect across categories, so it actually makes new-to-brand forays quite ripe. And just to be clear, we're not only talking about like the idea that you're going to shift budgets from one search keyword to another because it has a higher new-to-brand percentage. We certainly see a lot of that, but like most things in e-commerce, the answer is kind of, maybe, sometimes, I don't know. That's also not how math works. Within sort of like our new-to-brand strategies that we can activate within DSP and AMC, our ability to look at sort of like low eCPM audiences with high purchase rates, with high new-to-brand, not only can propel new-to-brand volume, but it can do so significantly more efficiently than you can. And I think that we see a lot of sort of like test and learns in this environment. Do we take people to a PDP? Do we take them to a brand store? Is it a feature that we're looking for? I think it's important to note for new-to-brand strategies in particular, I always try to sell them on an experience. Sometimes you're trying to sell them on Sometimes you're trying to sell, it's not a product, you're trying to sell them the brand, and I think it's incumbent upon us as advertisers to both create and curate new consumption patterns tailored to specific audiences, and that wasn't something we were able to do before, but with AMC and DSP, you can do that much more in concert. The next one, which is oddly, like my favorite topic of all time, which is a dumb topic to really love, but it's how we pulse our budgets. And not just talking about how we pulse it by day of week or based on intraday insights, all that are fine too, but the idea of pulsing budgets based on our DSP activity. You can actually see the shifts in sort of like user demand on your brand when you're exposed to an individual audience. It's called the Next Brand Search one. And with AMC and DSP in conjunction, you can get a ton of insights. If we live in a world in which we sort of agree that search is the barometer of consumer intent, and we can utilize those insights to get into the psyche of consumers, we can agree that it's probably the most insightful and disturbing thing you've ever looked at. If you ever have a chance to look at search data in your life, it's terrifying, but it's super fantastic. So in this instance here, we can see that an audience saw our DSP ad. In turn, they then tried to go and re-engage with our brand, and they look for the brand name. Now, from our standpoint, we're looking at a couple of things. 1, do we have any sort of attributes or functions that stand out there? 2, how do they spell the brand? 3, how are they talking about us? In a lot of instances, I think we find ourselves opportunities to create additional sort of sponsored ad campaigns to make sure that we can maximize those sales. These are obviously organic impressions that we've earned, due to our demand-driving activity on the DSP side, so it's our responsibility to close them out. I think more importantly here, when we start to look at it, we get to have really insightful conversations in terms of how we want to be visible. I think brands sometimes fall into the trap of looking at this quite myopically and just say, well, I've got organic coverage and that's fine, I'm going to get it. Yeah, stop thinking about what your visibility looks like and start to ask yourself if it's the visibility you want. Do you have the ability to, influence ASP here? Probably do. Can you give them a more profitable item? Yeah, you could probably do that too. So you can end up having quite a bit of fun with that one. Also, it doesn't just stop there. Find yourself a friend of the national media team. You can break that down. Honestly, that's what stuff that fit on the slide, but I can break that down by keyword, by audience type, by demo, by DMA. Find yourself a friend on a national media team and tell them you know exactly what copy, creative, audience, and ASIN mix result not just in a proclivity to interact with the brand later, but a propensity to actually convert. And I guarantee you the same thing that's healthy for your Amazon run rate is probably going to be just as good, if not decently better, for their ITO goals in national media. And then the last one, we'll take a look. Remarketing is a really, really simple one, and we threw it in here because remarketing is one of those things that I think are generally sort of like agreed upon, basic best practice, everybody does it. The reason I like talking about it in this instance is because when you pair AMC data with remarketing, it all of a sudden takes on a whole new life. Yeah, sure, we know what audience is engaged, we know who bought, we know who looked at it, that's all fantastic. Splice that down. We can look at that by demo, by DMA, by age, occasion, anything that we want. That makes it significantly more powerful. AMC also gives us a ton of ASIN-specific insights, so here the granularity is actually your friend. Right now I think when we do this through remarketing, we infer quite a bit, maybe infer quite a bit more than we want. But we're going to see different engagement patterns by pack size, by ASP, by format. For a lot of our brands selling things across formats, there's wildly different profitability variances across the formats. We've also, I'm assuming, have different sort of lifetime values associated with each one of them. So being able to customize and create strategies for individual ASINs specific to those, I think are really, really powerful. The other really helpful thing here is just understanding when to retarget. I think for a lot of our brands, or for a lot of brands that we see, they tend to treat DSP as like a feeder campaign and then just retarget anybody that didn't buy. That's cool. You can also retarget people that bought too. And when you're retargeting to people that bought, really think about, what the net PPM is, what that margin looks like. Can you get them to buy a better product? Can you push them into subscribe and save? Can you introduce them to a line extension? Can you cross-sell between different facets of your portfolio? So while it's a very sort of like basic tactic, I think remarketing takes on a whole new life when you start to measure it against some of the AMC data.
I get to work with him every day. That's all I can say. I sometimes have to ask him, can you go 0.5 speed or like a little bit slower? So it's not just you, it's everyone. So he's super smart. Very lucky to work with him. We really can't work and talk about Amazon DSP without talking about how AMC closes the loop with the products together. So you really shouldn't have to decide between search or DSP. Too often brands are siphoning off their budget and they're just testing one at a time so that they can understand incrementality. But with AMC, we can really identify the most efficient acquisition cost between mediums and identify when truly 1 + 1 = 3. Whoops. And with reports, the two reports that are really helpful are path to purchase analysis and ads overlap. And we can see when DSP is most effective at influencing these conversions. We can see if there's a large segment of your audience that is only interacting with sponsored products and might be ripe to also leverage DSP as well. And with these insights, we can measure and we can look at last touch attribution and assisted conversions as well. So we can look at the full funnel and impact of advertising. So I think we have some case studies here. Whoops. Okay. So let's bring this to life with a couple of case studies. For a major electronics brand, we looked at using AMC via PackView to determine customers who interacted with both DSP and sponsored products were 14 times more likely to convert than those who were only exposed to a sponsored products ad. And then when we added streaming TV into it as well, that increased to 15 times more likely to convert. During Prime Day this year, you can see that they had a very aggressive DSP strategy, and the results speak for themselves. 86% of ad attributed conversions were assisted by DSP ads during the month of Prime Day. Call out to our One Stone fans right here in the front row, or agency partners. This was the case study that they talked about earlier this morning in the keynote. So in this example, One Stone and their client Essentia, they used PackView's AMC dashboard to craft a really smart ad strategy. They used the ad overlap in the path to purchase report, only available through the AMC dashboard, to determine how much they should be spending on DSP. And they ended up increasing their DSP ad spend by 3x, which produced really amazing results for their clients. So a 10x improvement in purchase rate, and they also, customers who were exposed to both SP and DSP ads increased their ROAS by 52%. This was a really great case study. I encourage everyone to go talk to the One Stone team because they really have leveraged this in a really smart way, and I was lucky enough to be taken through how they use PackView with our dashboards to have really quick answers to be able to do that. So AMC is really just the tip of the iceberg. We have access to more data than before. Digital shelf tracking, retail sales data, item level profitability, and product detail page readiness. So we can leverage all of this retail inventory information to act as signals and into our strategies to drive really effective results for our clients. So one of our clients in the health and wellness categories, another case study, began implementing an ad strategy based on their commerce data, and they were really able to look at increasing their subscribe and save growth. So a 547% year-over-year increase, which unlocked 400% increase in attributed sales. All right, a few seconds to sum it all up with three key takeaways for today. AMC is super powerful. It really gives us access to granular level data that we've talked about throughout this presentation, And this really helps inform all these signals for crafting better advertising strategies. With this data, you can drive new growth, including new to brand customers, as well as remarketing to drive long-time value for your customers. And then lastly, the most successful advertisers are leveraging the data unleashed by AMC to drive the things that the brands went west, which is profitability, incrementality, and market segment share. Thanks, you guys.